Record. Well, Travis, thank you for being here today.
Well, thanks for inviting me. I'm looking forward to having a great conversation with you today.
Yes, so I want to give you an opportunity to start off and convince our listeners that it is not junk that you're getting in your mail, that there is a rhyme and a reason and maybe some gratitude there around what you're doing with your business.
Yeah, I mean, so we are a direct mail company, and that may sound old and obsolete and from a bygone era, maybe 20, 30 years ago or more. But that's what we do. We still send stuff in the mail, good old-fashioned paper and ink, everything from postcards to letters to big boxes of stuff that you might get when you hire somebody and everything in between. And we're finding as more and more things go digitally, we're finding, people are kind of embracing the analog again, so we are
Hmm.
have, we're seeing people embrace it. We're seeing people look at it. There's all kinds of studies out. Every 5 years, the USPS comes out with a big study, right, that they commission, obviously in their best interest to put out good numbers. So the
Sure.
next one we have coming out should be coming out this year. They do it every 5 years. The last one they released in spring of 2020. Um, but according to those numbers, direct mail is still alive and well. 90+% of people still check their mail every single day. 80+% of people still enjoy it. Compare that to how many people enjoy checking an inbox, an email inbox, right? Even young, quote unquote, young people are still checking their mail. They're still getting it. They're still receiving stuff in the mail. I don't have the numbers right in front of me, but the big reveal from that last study was the trustworthiness of a company that puts stuff in the mail versus just does digital, just does email, and the trust factor goes way up. And you can probably infer that the older the target you go towards, the higher that trust factor becomes. And so it may see old and stodgy, but there's still a lot of companies out there doing it. Amazon sends out catalog. We're just getting off the holiday season. Amazon sends out catalogs. Costco sends out catalogs. Google sends out direct mail. So even these quote, these tech companies, by and large, are embracing it as part of their marketing mix.
Yeah. So before we get too much into the tactics around direct mail, because and I will say, as a marketer myself, in fact, today I was looking over some parameters for a campaign we're building out for a client. We love direct mail
Yeah.
for a lot of the reasons you just said. And you can control so much of who's on the receiving end, right? In a way that it's just there's a tangible nature to it. I think because it is tangible, it's not more
Mhm.
digital bits and bytes just clouding up people's um, their inboxes. But before we get too far into the tactical
Yeah.
side of direct mail as a marketing tool or a communication tool, um, you're a young guy, and when you talk about the older your target audience and they trust direct mail. How did you get into direct mail as a career?
Well, my youthful appearance might be little actually be, the age I actually am. We actually started this business. When I say we, my father and I started this business together. So he owned another business. It was a wholesale distribution business. We won't get into the nitty-gritty of it. But it was a wholesale distribution business that had a ton of salespeople. And the traditional model in his business and his industry was to have these salespeople pound the pavement, work the street, knock on doors, get 100 no's before they got to a yes. That's
Mhm.
essentially the business model. And they walked up and down the street with their sample packets and their little swatch books and all kinds of stuff like that. He met a guy named Dan Kennedy, who's a big believer, big teacher of direct response marketing and direct mail. And his challenge to Keith, now he didn't meet him personally, he heard him in a big seminar room, but it was find a way to make direct mail work in your business. And he
Mm.
said, I want to do that. I've got these salespeople all over the place. how can I get people coming to me without me having to spread out a sales force and manage them from a and all that kind of stuff. And so
That's
he,
interesting. Let me interrupt you
yeah,
because
go for it.
you're
Yeah.
talking about replacing, your dad was inspired to replace sort of a sales tactics with direct mail. I think about direct mail as like a marketing aspect, but like, this really kind of gets to that intersection of sales and marketing, and that, there comes a point where they're mushed together and they're kind of
Yeah.
the same thing. So fast forward for me a little bit, like, so did your dad implement this with the business he was already in, or did it
Yeah.
inspire him to get out of Dodge and start this company?
Well, it's funny. So the answer is yes to both, right? So
Okay.
what happened was he got it to work in that business. And so again, he had outside sales reps. So now he brought everybody in, and the idea was to have the marketing draw them to us. Um, Fast forward to about 2007 now is when we had kind of gotten a name for ourselves and you doing fun, unique direct mail. And people were coming to us asking us what we were doing, how we were doing it. And we said, you know what? There might be a business here to do this stuff for them.
Hmm.
So now let's fast forward another 8 years after that. So we're 2015, 2016 now. He sells that original business and we keep this side of the business. So that this was a little division inside that bigger business. We sold all that off. So he sold, 90% of the business, kept the direct mail business. And now it's become, copywriting, design, agency work, mail house, letter shop, where we just do the whole thing now. So it's kind of evolved from there.
That's great. So, I don't want to call you what you don't see yourself, but you sound to me, because you've written a book, you're an evangelist for this as a strategy, a tactic for brands to build. So, what makes you so, when you're meeting with, be it agencies or businesses trying to get the word out, how do you sell what you're doing, what you can do for them over all the other ways that we like to spend everybody's money in marketing, right? Like the
Yeah.
digital ways, the event ways, uh, what's the pitch for doing this over some of those other tactics?
What we like to do, so even though we're a direct mail company, which again is old and stodgy, we embrace technology, we embrace new stuff. We're always looking for ways, what's out there that we can use in a technology space to bring it into us. So our best customers, our best clients are using direct mail much like you would use an email autoresponder. Something happens, right? Somebody opt-ins, somebody buys something, somebody makes an inquiry, and they go, and we all, they go into that they go into your CRM, they go into the email, and then stuff happens, right? Usually via email. We've really embraced, okay, how can we replicate that in a direct mail format? So what I like to tell people is we are your direct mail autoresponder. So we can tap into your CRM. We can do things that, are really the end user generated, end user, what's the right word? And the end user touch point is what really sparks the thing that we do oftentimes, right? And we do that with cold customers, right? So we can go out and get new lists for people.
Hmm.
And we can now be that autoresponder. We can help you convert clients. We can help you upsell clients. So, we like to talk about, you have your client journey, right? They don't know about you. They know about you. They know about you. They buy from you. And then hopefully they stay up real high. We want to be wherever there's spots where they could be falling off that, that customer journey,
Hmm.
where can we plug in direct mail in kind of an automated fashion so that they don't fall out of that sales funnel? They continue that trajectory up, and then hopefully at the end becoming a great customer, a great referral source for you. And we want to create A-level customers for as many clients as we can.
Yeah. So in implementing direct mail, where does data privacy come in? And is that, the move towards individuals being more aware of their data being,
Yeah.
publicly accessible and things? Is that impacting your business, or is that a potential threat, to this tactic long term?
So they've got, I believe it's GDPI now in Europe, I believe is what
Hmm.
is the correct acronym. We don't do any. mailings over there. We have clients over there that buy our stuff.
Mhm.
And you are seeing that inch into the US. However, by and large, it hasn't really infiltrated here like it has in the UK, Europe, Australia, places like that. Um, I think there's a big lobby on behalf of businesses that say, hey, we have this data, we're used to this data, we need to be continue to use this data. So we are seeing some certain things like that. There is no do not mail list like there is a do not call list. Maybe 25 years ago, you could just cold fax everybody when everybody had a fax machine and then they
Right.
took that away. So they are eroding some of that. However, I mean, you got to remember, direct mail has been around more or less since the 1880s, 1890s, really since Sears and Roebuck put out that first catalog. And even before that,
Hmm.
there was churches that would raise money with direct mail and all kinds of stuff. So I think it's embedded in our culture that at least with direct mail, it's not, I don't think we're seeing it as much. We are seeing some of that go away, but frankly, I don't know that it's going to go away anytime soon.
Hmm. Yeah, so talk to me and share some tips for, standing out, right? How to not just be another postcard, but like what's, if there's like secret sauce to success here
Yeah.
to use this tactic, what are some of those insights?
Yeah. So the first thing you want to do, and this goes for most marketing, most advertising, most sales, you want to look at what everyone else is doing and probably not do that, right? I'll give you a great example. We have clients. One of our biggest industries that we work in are attorneys. And so we mentioned that we kind of put their marketing on autopilot. So we can go get lists that an attorney would want to be in front of. And so picture a bankruptcy attorney. If you've ever missed a mortgage payment or you've ever been late on a credit card, you now start getting all these letters from these attorneys that are trying to get you to contact them for financial
Mhm.
help. Or it could be a bank, it could be credit consolidator. It could be really about 7 or 8 different industries once you kind of have a flag that, hey, I'm having some financial trouble. Well, as an attorney, most of those attorneys are going to send out the same exact thing. They're going to send out a number 10 envelope. It's going to have a window on it. It's going to have their name, their return address in the upper left-hand corner. They'll have their logo, which will have the scales of justice on it. That's what they all have. And you'll open up the letter, and they all pretty much look exactly the same. I do have a prop here I'll show you. I figured we might talk about this, but what if you sent something out in an envelope that looked like that? So this is made to look, it actually says airmail on it. I know you probably
Hmm.
can't see it. Well, now you've got 6 letters that showed up today, and all of them look exactly like I described, except for this one looks like this. And it looks like an airmail piece for those of you that may not be watching. Other things we'll do is we'll actually use a handwritten font onto an envelope. So it looks like somebody actually wrote it. And with technology now, I mean, as a printer, I can tell, but the average Joe off the street looks like a real handwritten letter.
Hmm.
Imagine we want to go and reactivate our old customers, right? So we all have old customers that have fallen off for whatever reason. Easy one's a dentist, right? We go every 6 months, month 7 hits. Well, what if we sent them out a little boomerang? So I'm actually holding up a plastic boomerang and we say, we want you back. So essentially, what I'm getting at is you just need to be different than everything else that your client or prospect may see. And that's all relative, right? I mean, if we're selling a 50 to $100,000 computer system in the B2B space, that's a different thing than
Yeah.
selling, a dental checkup or a 2-for-1 dinner at the local Mexican restaurant. So there's all levels of appropriateness there.
That's right. That's right. But how do you then, and is this your job or is it really the onus on the client? How do you know when something works or doesn't work?
That's a very good question. We have a pretty good idea. So we have a suite of products that we use that are kind of our go-to, right? 20 or 30 different pieces that we can use that, hey, with pretty darn good certainty, we know that this thing is going to work. Sometimes that's the client doing that on their own. Sometimes it's us working more in a consultative agency role to help that client. It just depends on what their needs are.
Hmm.
Um, we also are, we also have clients who have they have their own ideas, things that they want to do. So we had a client just recently. She puts on big boot camps, training seminars for the childcare industry. So these are, the independently run childcare industries, and this was a grow your business was the theme. So we had seed money plant seeds. I don't have those with me, but they're like little seeds that are money plants, and we put their logo on them. And then that goes into the mail piece, and that goes out. And we're building on that brand. We're building
Mhm.
on that topic for that specific seminar. And so oftentimes we'll see stuff like that. And hey, I want my group, we have this theme, whatever it might be, and I want to hammer them so that, after 10 or 12 or 15 touch points via phone and SMS and email and all that stuff and direct mail, all right, these guys are going to help me build my childcare business. So that's just one example. So, you know, we do help, but sometimes it can be very dependent on what that client wants to accomplish at any given time.
Yeah. So, I mean, as tactics go, in the realm of like, buying a front page ad on the New York Times
Yeah.
versus, we think about, Google display and social media ads and everything in between. Like, where does direct mail fall in? If a business wants to really embrace this as a tactic, um, I mean, I know my advice to companies is never do anything once, right? Like for any tactic has to be, you learn your A/B testing, you're measuring, you're iterating. So, where does this fit in? I mean, is this ever somebody's, full marketing spend, or is this usually need to be part of something larger?
Yeah, I mean, what I like to tell people is direct mail is not the toolbox. It's a tool in the toolbox. So if you need to hammer in a nail, a screwdriver does you absolutely no good, and then vice versa. So what we find is that it's part of that marketing mix. So we have told, like I gave the example of the childcare company, we did their direct mail, but then they had the SMS text messaging going out. They had emails going out. They had a small sales team making phone calls behind it. So it isn't the whole toolbox. It's a tool in it. And depending on the time and place and opportunity, that's when you want to use it. Now, to your point, about it just being a one-time deal. I think that's probably one of our biggest frustrations, is that someone will do it once. They'll immediately make proclamations that it works or doesn't work, and then they don't do it again almost almost either way, right? And so what I like to tell people is, well, that'd be like when your 14-month-old is trying to walk and they walked the first time and then they fell down the next 20 times. It's like, okay, well, you're just not a walker. I guess you're not going to walk. Well, nobody comes out hitting home runs the very first time for most things. Now we do. Sometimes we catch lightning in a bottle and it's like, oh, wow, this worked. Let's just put, gasoline on this fire.
Hmm.
But it really is the ones that do it best. One of our best clients, I bet you we're on iteration 30, 35 of his direct mail piece now. And sometimes it's putting a sticker on a spot in a letter. Sometimes he has a decent Spanish speaking client base. Do we put a Spanish flyer in there? What if we take out the flyer altogether and put something else in? And he's tracking that. And so you're never going to, turn the ship around 180 degrees. It's a series of small little turns to get it going. And those are our best clients. I mean, same thing with digital, right? I mean, you're always testing, you're always tweaking, and the best clients are always kind of fiddling with something.
Yeah, that's right. And I mean, it's it's having the stamina. And you talked about this earlier, and I talk about this all the time on this podcast too. It's it's that buyer journey and knowing like what are you trying to accomplish? Because sending out, if you're a brand new company and you're sending out something for the first time, that's a very different goal that you're after than if you're the dentist trying to recall a client who's done
Yep.
business with you and it's already an intimate relationship, right? Those are
Yep.
very different points in the buying journey.
Yep.
Therefore, your tactics and your expectations of what you can achieve need to be very, very different. And I think the onus is on you and me and everybody who does what we do to really help our clients understand that this is nothing is a button that you push. Like, let's activate revenue.
Yeah, I know they used to have the Office Depot or Staples had the easy button, and
Right. Yeah. Yeah.
it's
That
never
was
that
easy.
easy. It's
It's
never, I
never.
was to that point. I was talking to a client. It was yesterday or the day before. He thought he was going to come to me and we were going to put together this new prospecting package. Like that's what he had in his mind when we had scheduled the call. Well, after about 10 or 15 minutes, you come to find out, well, you have a whole bunch of leads sitting over here that you're not doing anything with. It's
Mhm.
going to be a whole lot easier and cheaper to convert those leads than it is to go get new leads. And then let's take that money, reinvest it, part of it into the new lead acquisition. So people often come to me with thinking they need one thing, and
Yeah.
it's okay, maybe it's not that or it's a shade of that usually.
Right. And I think, this speaks to your ability to, clients don't necessarily know the service they want. They think they
Yes.
might, but
Mhm.
they know the problem they're trying to solve. And I mean, you can't see it, but I have it framed and it says, what problem are you trying to solve?
That's
Market that.
great.
Like
Yeah.
and for us, we're trying to solve our clients' problems. So, pivoting here a little bit in this conversation, like, how is your business? Like, is this a good time in your business? Is this a struggle bus time in your business? Like, how's it going?
Well, so we're doing well. We're doing very well, in fact. COVID hit us a little bit. I mean, we are a typical B2B business in that we did a lot of trade shows, a lot of seminars, and we sponsored a lot of in-person type of things. And like those just went away for almost a whole year.
Yeah.
So now what do we have to do? So we found, in a lot of places, okay, being in a big room with a lot of people, that's not there anymore, but maybe being in smaller, more specialized rooms, if that kind of makes sense, right? So
Mhm.
instead of going somewhere with 2,000 people, maybe we're someplace with 50 people, but those 50 people are all concentrated, in kind of one niche or one industry, and we can put together programs just for those people.
Yeah.
We used to do a lot of stuff in the real estate investing group. So, I affectionately call it the we buy ugly houses type marketing. We'll buy your house sight unseen, yada, yada, yada.
Yeah.
Well, with the market tightening up, less houses for sale, just less volume, less everything in that industry. That's been a little bit more of a challenge. So for us, that was a very high volume, low profit thing, but it kept printers turning, it kept people busy, and in the totality of it, it was profitable. Well, a lot of those folks aren't in that industry anymore because, if you don't know the real estate investing group, there's a lot of people that get in and out real fast,
Yeah.
right? And so
They go to a
that's been a little
seminar
bit
to
of a
get
challenge.
get rich pretty fast. They
Yep.
get all excited and then they realize there's no button and you don't get rich really fast doing things.
Now, in our defense, we knew that was never going to be a forever thing, right? We
Right.
knew that. And so, in real estate, just look at the last 20 or 30 years, they kind of go in 5 to 10 year cycles. And so we probably know there's one coming up here relatively soon. Now we got to go find other folks. And so now we're trying to find, you know, maybe some of those lower volume folks, but where we make more money. That's a perfect client I think that's a perfect client for anybody, right? Less
Yeah.
work and more profit.
Yeah. Yeah. So, I know when you and I chatted before, we talked about what's hard in your business and you have to do a lot of education to your clients
Yeah.
around
Mhm.
price increases, right?
Yeah. Yeah. So,
So
so
this is not a political podcast, but like I have to imagine that some of the things that besides the paper, the items that you use in direct mail, are imported and probably potentially going to go up in
yep.
price. And then we've got
Yep.
postal prices that increase. You know, is that a threat to your business, or is that something you factor in?
Yeah. I mean, buying the bigger issue for us now, buying all these tchotchkes and things like that does impact us somewhat. Um, our biggest challenge, and I told you this when we spoke a couple weeks ago, are just postage increases that we have no control over.
Hmm.
So that's hard. I can't go shop around postage increases, right? I'm
Right.
going to get it. You're going to get it. The mail shop next door is going to get it. And so every time we have a postage increase, and they used to only happen every handful of years. Now they're happening every 6 months. And so there's a lot of things. I know you said this wasn't a political podcast, and I'm fully on board with that. But there are some things that Congress could do so that postage doesn't increase as fast.
Hmm.
There's a lot, and I'm not going to pretend to be an expert on that, but there's things that they make the post office do and fund that they don't make other federal agencies or federal things do. And so that's why, when you hear things, oh, the post office lost $700 million last year. Well, a lot of that is because of the funny math that they make the post office do
Sure.
from an accounting perspective. Now,
Sure.
if you think about the post office, though, everyone thinks it's a bad company. And if you go to the post office and you try to buy stamps and you try to ship something, that experience, I will fully admit, is not a lot of fun. But that's their core competency is not a retail environment. Their core competency is getting a letter from Seattle, Washington, to New York City in 3 days. And
Yeah.
that they do exceedingly well. So, we talk to our clients about it. Sometimes we have to shift some things. Maybe we don't send boomerangs anymore. Maybe we send a picture of a boomerang in a card now or something like that. But that's probably our biggest challenge. And it's top of mind for everybody now because it comes up every 6 months,
Hmm.
just about. So hopefully there won't be another increase in July now.
Yeah. So, as you think about where you want to take your business and what's next for you and what are you trying to accomplish? Is there something that's like meaningful to you as you look ahead that you're working on right now?
That's a good question. Just from a tactics, a in the, kind of in the foxhole way, we're still looking at embracing technology. We're still looking to do
Hmm.
that. As a marketer, you know that every one of your clients wants the next shiny object, right? And so as a consultant, as an agency, we we fight that tendency to do things that we know work as opposed to doing things that may or may not work because they're the new shiny object. But you still got to bring something new to folks. So, we're looking towards things like how can we just track stuff better? How can we make how can we make an analog, direct mail piece fit seamlessly, when they go onto the website now?
Yeah.
Is everything looking the same? Can we use pearls, right? Personal URLs. Can we use, tracking codes, things like that? Um, from a personal standpoint, I made the decision about 10 years ago that for me, this business was going to do what I wanted it to do and not what it wanted to do to me. Right.
Okay.
So like I
So
am,
what does that mean? That
yeah.
like you've got your own non-negotiables?
Yeah,
What does it
so I
mean?
mean, with very rare exception, I see the kids off to school in the morning. Now they're getting older, and so they're getting, with rare exceptions, I'm at home for dinner every night. With
Hmm.
rare exception, I get to all the activities. Again, they're getting older now, so they want less of dad, more of their friends. Dinner might not be at 6:30 every night. It might be at 8:30 one night and 4:30 another night, and maybe no dinner at all the next night. And so, uh, you know, my home and my office are 3 miles away from each other for that reason. We live in a small community for that reason. It is 10 minutes to my daughter's school. Well, 15 minutes to my daughter's school, 10 minutes to my son's school. My wife works in the school district where they go to school. And that was all, not 100% by design, but pushed that way towards design. So that for me, it's having, like I made a decision a long time ago. I don't want a ton of employees. Well, so that means we're only going to there's a ceiling with
Right.
that, right?
Yeah.
There is, but I know that, and I'm okay with that. So it means, do we outsource more than we insource? Things like that.
I love that intentionality. And I think, were you always there, or is that something that you matured into?
So I mentioned that I started this business with my dad. Um, that company that he eventually sold at its peak, 65 employees, 5 locations. Um, And don't get me wrong, I had an incredible childhood with my dad. I mean, I work with him, right? So it couldn't have been all bad. But he told me along the way, if I could do it again, I would have a smaller business that could kick off as much cash is the big business, right? So
Yeah,
if
yeah,
I could do it again, I'd scale it down by 80%, but build it in a way that I could still have the lifestyle that I wanted. And that was new to him, right? Because when he was, when he was my age and growing and grinding and doing it, I think this was the 80s and the 90s. This was bigger's better. Doesn't
yeah,
matter what the metric is, bigger is better.
yeah.
And I
Well, it's
think,
ego too, and I think it's generational. And because
yeah,
the more and more entrepreneurs I've talked to, um, I think of our cohort, I think this recognition that like who cares what people think of you? Like
yeah,
that you don't have 20 locations and and it used to be a badge of honor that you worked 80 hours a week and
yep,
that was a bragging thing. And now I look at my kids and they're like, well, that's just two 40-hour a week jobs. And so that big salary is actually half what you think it is. Like
yep,
so it's a realignment, I think, of culture and expectations. So um to close us out, Travis,
yep.
you are not prepared for this. I want listeners to know you are not prepared for this. I'd like to
Okay.
do some fun rapid fire questions.
Okay. I'll do my
Okay.
best.
There's no wrong answer.
Oh boy. Okay.
Okay.
My wife's a teacher. She'd tell you there's probably some wrong answers.
There's probably some inappropriate answers,
There you
except
go.
not
Yeah,
on this
yeah, yeah.
podcast. On this podcast, there is nothing well, as of yet, no one has hit the ceiling of inappropriateness. So,
All right. Sounds good.
what's your favorite social media?
Favorite social media? Boy, I sure like X Twitter. I love the news feed. I love getting the headlines quick and dirty.
Okay. Taylor Swift, yay, nay, or don't care?
I really don't care, except for when my daughter's in the car. She's 11 years old, and that's all we listen to. So
Yeah.
when I'm in the car with my daughter, I gotta yay it on that one.
All right. Is there a book you always recommend?
Book I always recommend. I love The Ultimate Sales Machine. Um, why can't I think? Chet Holmes. Probably wrote it 25 years ago. Um, I was teaching his kind of stuff before I even knew who he was, right? And so there's this kind of this natural connection.
Awesome. Last question. Where do you want to go on your next vacation?
Oh, we actually have that planned. So an unplanned one or a planned one?
Up to you. No wrong
Okay, so
answer.
that's right. So my wife and I are going to Scotland in July for our 20th wedding anniversary. That is her bucket list number one place.
That's fantastic. Congratulations on 20 years. And
Thank you.
it's on my bucket list. I've not been to Scotland. It's
She is a what are those books? The Scotland books. I can't think of them now. Outlander. She's a giant
okay.
Outlander fan. She's read all 10 books, watched every series. So we are going to go see every spot Outlander went to.
That's fantastic. Well, I wish you all the joy on your summer vacation. And you're not taking the kids on that one then?
Nope, that's just the two of us.
Oh, that's even better. That's even better.
Thankfully, I've got both sets of grandparents are close by to take the kids for a week for us.
Perfect. Perfect. Well, Travis, this has been a lot of fun. I appreciate you sharing both your perspectives on your marketing from a tactical perspective, but also some of your business journey. I think it's really interesting, and it's been fun chatting with you today.
Awesome. Thanks for having me, Jennifer. It was great.
Of course, Travis.